下来吧。好，有大家在身边。
悲鸣吧，这里，嘿，嘿，这里，无能，嘿。
Hey, what's up YouTube, and welcome back to another Genshin Impact video. Today, we're going to be going over the DPS Xiao. Xiao is predicted to rerun in 2.4 or 2.5 in one of the new upcoming banners. Xiao specializes in large AoE damage to large clumps and clusters of enemies. With the introductions out of the way, I'm going to showcase my Xiao and then get into the Xiao guide. My Xiao is currently 90 out of 90. He has a 73% crit rate, a 224% crit damage, 105 energy recharge, and 61.6% ammo damage bonus. His weapon is the 90 Black Clef Pole Refinement 3. He has a Shimenawa set and a Viridescent set, and these are my artifacts. He has 0 Constellations, and his talents are 10, 10, 10. Next, let's get into Xiao's best weapons. Already with the get-go, Xiao does not skill off of physical damage or elemental mastery, so I'd instantly disregard all those weapons. Moving on, Xiao really likes energy recharge, so the Catch, the Favonius Lance, and the prototype Star Glitter are all amazing choices. The Catch is probably what I would rank as the best option for Xiao because the increased elemental burst damage by 32% and the burst crit rate. Next, I'd probably go with the Favonius Lance because you get more energy recharge than the prototype Star Glitter. Using the Star Glitter as the last option, it increases normal and charge attack damage by 8% after using your elemental skill. And usually, you're not autoing as much with Xiao, you're mostly just using it for your burst and then swapping out. But what Xiao likes most is more damage. So the Black Cliff Pole is a great free-to-play option for Xiao because it provides him with the substat of crit damage. The Deathmatch is also a viable option if you want to incorporate crit rate into your builds, but it is a battle pass weapon, and if you're free to play, it will be unobtainable. As for 5-star options, the Jade Spear and the Staff of Homa are great 5-star options for Xiao. They provide much more damage. The Jade Spear gives you a crit rate substat, and the Staff of Homa gives you a crit damage substat. Moving on, we have Xiao's artifacts. For me, I think Xiao's best in-slot artifacts are either a 2-piece Gladiator's Finale or Shimenawa paired with a 2-piece Viridescent set. The 2-piece Shimenawa set or the 2-piece Gladiator's Finale gives you an 18% attack, and the 2-piece Viridescent set gives you a 15% ammo damage bonus. If you were to decide to grind this set, I would grind the Shimenawa set in place of the Gladiator set because the Gladiator sets are only obtainable during mini-boss fights and weekly boss fights. The Shimenawa set is grindable in an artifact domain located in Inazuma. The Viridescent set, however, is located in Mondstadt and is pretty easy to grind. It's right next to the Maid's Beloved set, and the 4-piece Viridescent set, although you don't use it on Xiao, is great for other Anemo supports. Now, of course, this is Genshin Impact, and there are many viable sets to work on Xiao. It's just this combination of 2-piece sets is what I deem the most optimal. But if you wanted to, you could decide to run a 2-piece Noblesse Oblige set paired with a 2-piece Viridescent set. Swapping a Noblesse Oblige set with a Shimenawa set or Gladiator's Finale set will give you more burst damage, but less attack overall when you are out of your burst. As for building a Pale Flame or a Bloodstained Chivalry set on Xiao, I would not recommend because none of Xiao's abilities scale off of physical damage. His E is animo damage, and when he's in his ultimate state, he's dealing purely animo damage. People have thought of running a 4-piece Viridescent set with Xiao, but his kit just doesn't fit what the 4-piece Viridescent set wants to do. The 4-piece Viridescent set is more for support, and with Xiao's kit geared more towards a DPS, Xiao is not going to deal the most optimal damage. Because his kit is geared so much towards of a DPS, his support capabilities are not going to be as optimal either. Finally, as a short disclaimer for you guys, if you were thinking about rolling on the upcoming Xiao banner in 2.4 or 2.5, do not grind artifacts until Xiao gets released. For every character that has had a rerun, there has been an upgraded artifact set for them. With Zhongli, it was the Tenacity of the Millilith set. With Albedo, it was the Husk of Opulent Dreams set. And when Child had his first rerun banner, they released the Heart of Depth set. What I'm saying is, once Xiao gets released, MiHoYo is probably going to release a better artifact set for Xiao, because currently, right now, he doesn't have a good 4-piece set. He just has a combination of animo damage and attack percent. Next, let's get onto the substats you want to get on your artifacts, and just overall stats you want to get for your Xiao. When you're building Xiao, you want to build him as a DPS. His entire kit revolves around DPS damage, and he is a highly selfish DPS unit and likes to stay on the battlefield for an extended period of time. As for your substats for Xiao, you're going to want to run crit rate and crit damage. These two stats will give you the highest damage output for a DPS unit. A secondary priority would be energy recharge or attack percent. And finally, everything else like elemental mastery, defense percent, HP percent would be of a low priority. You don't really want any of these effects on your Xiao because you want your Xiao to deal the most damage as possible because of his role as a DPS. Finally, last thing to note, I don't think energy recharge is much of a desired stat that you need on Xiao. I know in the weapon guide, I really liked energy recharge weapons for Xiao, and they are extremely good to charge up Xiao's high energy cost burst ultimate, but rather than trying to roll energy recharge on your substats, I think it's a better option to just roll crit rate and crit damage. Most people overestimate Xiao's energy problems, but I like to leave that role to Xiao's supports. You want your Xiao to deal the most damage as possible, and the supports will help him achieve that by feeding Xiao as many energy particles as possible. When it comes to the artifact main stats you want on Xiao, you want attack percent for his sands, you want animo damage bonus for his goblet, and crit damage or crit rate depending on your ratio for his circlet. Moving on into Xiao's constellations, which I have 0 of, but I'm going to explain them anyway. Basically, his first constellation gives him an extra E dash. His second constellation, when Xiao is not on the field, his energy recharge is increased by 25%. His third constellations increase his E by 3 levels. His fourth constellation, when his HP falls below 50%, he gains 100% defense bonus. His fifth constellation makes his ultimate increase by 3 levels. And his sixth constellation is his best constellation. While under the effects of his ultimate, hitting at least 2 opponents with Xiao's plunging attack will immediately grant him 1 charge of his E. And for the next 1 second, he may use his E charge while ignoring its cooldowns. This constellation basically allows Xiao to repeatedly spam his E charge, dealing tons and tons of DPS. But this is a Constellation 6, and you know getting a C6 for a 5-star will burn a gaping hole into your wallet. I'd say if you're planning to roll for Xiao in the upcoming banner, I'd say going for Xiao's C1 would be a great constellation to aim for. It's pretty achievable for free-to-play players, and that's the constellation I'm planning to roll on once Xiao does get his rerun. An extra E skill dash would provide more burst damage to my Xiao and provide me with more energy particles to work with. Xiao at C0 is completely viable as well. I've had my Xiao at C0 since his release, and he has carried me through Spiral Abyss floor 12. Next, let's get into Xiao's talents and passive abilities. Xiao's normal attack is a regular 6-hit strike, with an added benefit of his plunging attacks allows him to take no mid-air fall damage. The scalings on Xiao's normal attacks and charge attacks are pretty high, so if you're ever off energy, it's not a bad idea to use Xiao for his normal and charged attacks. Moving on, we have Xiao's E skill. Xiao will lunge forward, dealing anemo damage to opponents in its path. The auto-targeting on this ability is pretty atrocious sometimes, but it does deal high amounts of anemo damage and the scalings are extremely high. It does in fact have an extremely long cooldown of 7 seconds, but if you pair an anemo character with Xiao, you'll get the elemental resonance bonus of anemo, which will decrease elemental skill cooldown. Since I usually pair Xiao with Jean, my elemental skill cooldown is usually 8 seconds. Moving on, we got Xiao's ultimate ability. Xiao's ultimate ability increases Xiao's jumping ability, it increases his AoE attack damage, and converts damage into anemo damage, which cannot be overridden by abilities like Chongyun E and Bennett C6. Once he is in his ultimate state, he will lose percentage of his max HP, and the effect will end once Xiao leaves the battlefield. And interesting to note here is Xiao actually can't die from his own ultimate ability. He will keep taking a percentage of his HP, so once Xiao's HP gets to 1, it will keep taking a percentage of that 1, never actually reaching 0, and therefore Xiao will never die from the ultimate ability. Thus, implementing shielding characters will greatly increase Xiao's survivability rate. Xiao's cooldown for his ultimate ability is 18 seconds, and the energy cost is pretty hefty at 70 energy. And now, we're moving on to Xiao's passive talents. Xiao's passive ability, Conqueror of Evil, Tamer of Demons, reads, while under the effect of his ultimate, every 3 seconds, Xiao will gain 5% damage increase, and it will cap out at 25% damage bonus. Xiao's next passive ability, Disillusion Eon Heaven Fall, after using Xiao's E skill, increases the damage of the next E skill by 15%. This effect lasts for 7 seconds and has a maximum of 3 stacks. Getting a new stack refreshes the effect's duration. Xiao's last and final talent, Transition Gravity Defier, decreases the climbing stamina consumption for your own party for members up to 20%. This is not stackable with passive talents. Next, let's go over some tips and tricks for Xiao.
Disappear.
Xiao has this weird mechanic where he actually can't gain elemental particles from his E during his ult. So one trick you can use is you can E twice, use up all your charges, and then ult. You can still gain the particles from his previous E's while he's during his ult.
Disappear.
I'll show you guys the best attack rotation with Xiao. Xiao, people are either just straight plunging attacking, and that's great for AoE damage, but if you are playing Xiao against one boss like the Cryo Ridge is fine, try to weave in a charged attack. You'll do significantly more damage. This mechanic is essential if you have Xingqiu and want to use him as your support. If you ult, you can auto with Xiao and get the ring swords to pop. Another mechanic I've discovered while playing with Xiao is he does grunt a lot whenever he fights bosses and or enemies. One way to eliminate this problem is to either turn the sound off or switch to a different language and hear him grunting in a foreign language. Next, another incredibly great reason to use Xiao is his Ascension stat is crit rate. If you take a look at my Xiao without any artifacts, he has 24.2% crit rate. Most characters without any artifacts have 5% crit rate. Xiao is getting an extra 19.2% crit rate just from his Ascension stats. This extra crit rate that we're getting from Xiao's Ascension stat gives us more leeway to build into more crit damage with our artifacts and our weapons. First, let's focus on Xiao's drawbacks and weaknesses so we can determine what are the best team comps for Xiao. Xiao is an amazing DPS unit, but does come with some drawbacks to offset his DPS power. Xiao is an extremely selfish carry that likes to be on the battlefield for an extended period of time, so he loves supports that can support him from outside the battlefield. This extends to Albedo, Fischl, and Ball. When you build him, you want to focus all your resources into his DPS potential, so it comes with the drawback of being really squishy. So you want to add as many shields on top of that boy as possible, so he's like a glass cannon with a little shield. Next, he does have a little bit of energy problems, so you want to get his ult on cooldown to deal as most DPS damage as possible. Instead of building energy recharge on your artifacts, I like to use supports that can funnel energy into my Xiao. Now that we know what our Xiao needs, let's go into team comps to see what supports would fill in his gaps. This is my current team for Xiao. Zhongli will provide a shield for Xiao, Albedo acts as an off-field support, and my Jean will act as a healer who can funnel energy particles into Xiao while also using a burst heal to heal the entire team. My Albedo also acts as a support that can funnel energy particles into Xiao. Albedo is a good flex character. You can flex him with any other supports that provide energy particles. In this team, I have a Bennett. I'll supply my team with energy particles if they're in need of extra healing. We got Bennett and Jean to provide the team with max healing potential. The next team, Xiao, Jean, Fischl, and Albedo, excels at providing energy particles for Xiao. Fischl and Albedo are both off-field supports that can funnel energy particles into Xiao. So he's ulting on cooldown, except there is the fact that he doesn't have a shielder, which may hurt Xiao's survivability against harder hitting mobs. Xiao's next team is on the more free-to-play friendly side with only 4 stars with Xiao, Bennett, Sucos, and Fischl. Sucos is amazing at funneling energy particles into Xiao. Fischl is also great at being an off-field support, and Bennett can provide us with heals. The next team I have for you guys is Xiao, Jean, Sucos, and Venti. Xiao will basically have his ultimate up 100% of the time, and this team comp excels at destroying enemies that are grouped in large clusters. This last team we have here is our most free-to-play friendly comp. It ticks off most of the boxes on Xiao's weaknesses. We have Barbara for heals, Fischl for generating energy particles, and the Traveler for grouping enemies and generating animo energy particles for Xiao. Instead of a damage showcase, I'm going to show you Xiao's viability and the current Abyss floor 12.
创生之法，此局改生以剑为誓。
就此消失，无能。无能。无用。
天理长驱。
战法法灵骨于此显生。
天动万象，固若金汤。
悲鸣吧，这里。无能。无能。
天动万象，巨兽。
你造阳华，见证伟业吧！以剑为誓。 一决胜负。
更大意了吧？固若金汤，
创生之法，一决胜负。
不用。
天理长驱，
风，回应我吧。密造阳华，冥谷，于此
该明吧。无能，这里。无聊，无用。这里。
天动万象，安如磐石。
绽放吧，此即诞生之刻。
无聊，不用。
天理长驱，
以剑为誓。
细腰挪舞。
聚收并蓄，
见证伟业吧，绽放吧。一决胜负。
天理长驱，安如磐石。
风之神，请指引我们。
不用。该明吧。这里。这里。无能。
此乃天道，安如磐石。
密造阳华，
无聊。
一决胜负。以剑为誓。创生之法，此即诞生。
天理长驱，
就此消失。无能。这里。无能。无能。这里。无能。不用。
风，回应我吧。
Xiao is my favorite DPS, and I highly recommend if you got enough primogems to roll for Xiao's upcoming banner, I recommend that you do. His playstyle is extremely fun to play with, and I like the mobility that his dash enables him in the overworld. As you see, he's exceptionally good in the current Spiral Abyss for 2.3, and easily dealt with all three Magu Kenki at the same time. As you see, I changed my language to Chinese because I was getting a bit bored of English. Maybe I'll change it to Japanese later on, or I'll change it back to English if that's what you guys like. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.